tradition, la mama, la mama, tradition. At 3 I started Hebrew school, at 10 I learned a trade. I hear they picked a bride for me, I hope she's pretty. The sun's the sun, tradition, the sun's the sun, tradition.
And who does Mama teach to mend and tend and fix, preparing me to marry whoever Papa picks?
The daughters, tradition, the daughters, tradition. Day and night must
And in the circle of our little village, we have always had our special types. For instance, Yenta the matchmaker.
Avram, I have a perfect match for your son, a wonderful girl.
Who is it?
Rochel, the shoemaker's daughter.
Rachel, she's almost blind. She can hardly see.
Tell the truth, Avram, is your son so much to look at? The way she sees and the way he looks, it's a perfect match.
And Nachum the beggar.
Alms for the poor, alms for the poor.
Here, Reb Nachum, is 1 kopeck.
1 kopeck. Last week you gave me 2 kopecks.
I've had a bad week.
So, if you've had a bad week, why should I suffer?
And most important, our beloved rabbi.
Rabbi, may I ask you a question?
Certainly, my son.
Is there a proper blessing for the Tsar?
A blessing for the Tsar. Of course. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. May God bless and keep the Tsar far away from us.
Then there are the others in our village. They have a much bigger circle. His Honor the Constable, His Honor the Priest, His Honor many others. We don't bother them, and so far they don't bother us. And among ourselves, we get along perfectly well. Of course, there was the time when he sold him a horse and he delivered a mule. But that's all settled now. Now we live in simple peace and harmony. It was a mule.
It was a horse.
It was a mule!
No, I tell you, it was a
Tradition. Without our traditions, our lives would be as shaky as a fiddler on the roof.
Again, that is maybe one of the greatest opening numbers of any musical ever. It tells you everything you need to know about everybody you're about to meet. And it was Jerome Robbins' inspiration that the fighting back and forth about how this story, Tevye the Dairyman, should start, now renamed Fiddler on the Roof because of the Chagall paintings, it's truly, his will. Jerome Robbins. And of course, when you see that to this day it travels with any production, even the one in Australia, it's pretty amazing. Well, there's another part of the Fiddler on the Roof choreography because Jerome Robbins licenses certain things into all professional productions that if they're done in equity contracts, that must be done the way Jerome Robbins wrote them into the script. You know, people ask me all the time, how was that done? Well, there's a a choreographic stenographer who does these things, and you know that's how they take down the steps and so on and so forth. But here, this is a session that I want you all to get up and try to do as they teach you.
Hi, my name is Ofi Schechter and I'm the choreographer of Fiddler on the Roof. This is Christopher Evans from England, and he is the associate choreographer of Fiddler on the Roof. And Chris is going to show you the Bottle Dance. The Bottle Dance appears as part of the wedding party of Mottel and Zeitel. It's actually something that happens in Orthodox Jewish weddings. Every culture has some kind of thing that they do in order to impress the crowd and excite everybody. And they just found that way of balancing a bottle on their head, on their hat, and doing tricks, you know, doing dance and tricks with it. So that's where it comes from. It's real. It really happens. So all you need is a hat and a bottle. There's just one rule: you shouldn't drop the bottle. The bottle should remain on the hat. That's it. It's simple. We're going to start with, just get that rhythm. No matter what you're doing, even if you drop the bottle, keep the hands nice and steady and confident. Your right foot is a heel. On the click, pop it up. Step on. The left ball of your foot, pop it up. Heel. Pop it up. And we're going to start to turn very slowly. Pay attention to the hands. They're going to turn out with the foot, out, and then in, out. You step, bring your hands over. Here's what we got. 5, 6. Now this bit everyone should be able to do at home. You screw into the floor and turn. And the big finish. We come down to the floor, knees touching. Right leg first. Bring your right leg out, heel. Drag your whole body, bring the left in. Left foot, heel, whole body. You are a bottle dancer.
Now, was everybody able to follow along with that and practice it? If you want, I can show it again to teach you, but it is one of the most difficult things you can imagine. And the bottle is not supposed to fall off of your hat. Actors can get fired for that if it happens too often. And it's one of the most important components that Jerome Robbins wrote in that is a requirement of a production of Fiddler on the Roof. And here it is. Now, Jerome Robbins, as I've noted before, he and Zero Mostel did not get along well at all. Zero Mostel was named before the House Un-American Activities Committee by Jerome Robbins. But Zero Mostel understood that Jerome Robbins at this point in his career was to his benefit. This has almost become one of those great moments that if you ever saw anybody do it, Zero Mostel thought he was absolutely irreplaceable. And he and Hal Prince tangled over renewing his contract. And Zero Mostel was making so many demands, and ultimately Hal Prince said, "You know what, Zero, enough." And Zero Mostel said, "You know what, Hal, 2 weeks from this week, there won't be a Fiddler on the Roof after Zero Mostel was gone." Well, of course, it ran for 7 more years. And of course, this is Zero Mostel recreating the number that we all know is so associated with it.
Dear God, you know you made many, many poor people. I know it's no great shame to be poor, but it's no great honor either. What would have been so terrible if I had a small fortune? If I were a rich man, all day long I'd pity, pity bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were a pity, pity rich, title man, I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen right in the middle of the town. A fine tin roof with real wooden floors below. There could be one long staircase just going up and one even longer coming down, and one more leading nowhere just for show. I'd fill my yard with chicks and turkeys and geese and ducks for the town to see and hear, squawking just as noisily as they can. And each loud will land like a trumpet on the ear, as if to say, "Here lives a wealthy man." If I were a rich man, all day long I'd pity, pity bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were a pity, pity rich, title man, I'd see my wife, my Goldie, looking like a rich man's wife with a proper double chin, supervising meals to our heart's delight. I see her putting on nail and strutting like a peacock. Boy, what a happy mood she's in, screaming at the servants day and night. The most important men in town will come to fawn on me. They will ask me to advise them like a Solomon the wise. If you please, Reptilian, pardon me, Reptilian, posing problems that would cross a rabbi's eyes. And it won't make one bit of difference if I answer right or wrong. When you're rich, they think you really know. If I were rich, I'd have the time that I lack to sit in a synagogue and pray, and maybe have a seat by the eastern wall, And I discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day. That would be the sweetest thing of all. Oh, if I were a rich man, no. All day long I'd bitty bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work. Lord, who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. Would it spoil some vast eternal plan if I were a wealthy man?
Now, of course, this was all conception of Jerome Robbins. Of course, Zero Mostel had to implement it. But Jerome Robbins did research again in the Hasidic dance and in the Eastern European superstitions. And he created this moment with Bach and Harnick, which is one of the great moments from Fiddler on the Roof.
All right. Only don't be frightened.
Tell me!
This was my dream. In the beginning, I dreamt we were having a celebration of some kind. Everybody we knew was there, and musicians too. In the middle of the dream, in walks your grandmother Zeitel, may she rest in peace.
Grandmother Zeitel? How did she look?
For a woman who is dead 30 years, she looked very good. Naturally, I went up to greet her. She said to me,
A blessing on your head.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
To see your daughter wed.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
And such a son-in-law, oh, like no one ever saw. The tale of Mantel comes soil. Muzzle! Oh, a worthy boy is he.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Of pious family.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
They named him after my dear Uncle Mordecai. The tale of Mantel comes soil. Taylor, she must have heard wrong. She meant the butcher.
you must have heard wrong, Grandma. There's no tailor. You mean a butcher, Grandma, by the name of Latham Wolf?
No! I mean a tailor, my great-grandchild. I mean the title who you named for me. Mantel's bride was meant to be. For such a match I pray. In heaven it was made. A fine upstanding boy, a comfort and a joy. The tale of Mantel comes soil. Ah! But we announced it already. We made a bargain with the butcher.
But we announced it, Grandma, to our neighbors. We made a bargain, Grandma, with the butcher Latham Wolf.
No! So you announced it, Taylor. That's your headache. And as for Latham Wolf, I say to you, have you? That's your headache, too.
A blessing on your house, mazel tov, mazel tov. Imagine such a spouse, mazel tov, mazel tov. And such a son-in-law, like no one ever saw. The tailor mazel comes on.
The butcher.
The Latham
The tailor mazel Gotcha! My grandmother said, may she rest in peace, took the trouble to come all the way from the other world to tell us about the tailor. All we can say is that it is all for the best, and it couldn't possibly be any better. Amen. A blessing on my head, muzzle tough. Like Grandma Sackler said, muzzle tough. We'll have a son-in-law like no one ever saw. The tailor mutton comes so well.
We haven't got the man
Muzzle tough.
we had when we began.
Muzzle tough.
But since your grandma came, she'll marry what's his name?
The tailor mutton comes so well. The tailor mutton comes so well. The tailor mutton comes so well. The tailor mutton comes so well.
Jerome Robbins creating exactly what he knew out of the superstitions of the time. Well, in 1988, he gave up directing after that. In 1988, came back to Broadway to stage a sort of a jukebox musical of his work, a retrospective. And I think you're going to find this pretty interesting.
When I was doing Broadway Bound from producer Manuel Eisenberg, my character, Stanley, a would-be comedy sketch writer, spends the entire first act with a pad and pencil in his hand because he's trying to come up with a comedy sketch. And I realized early on in rehearsals that we had an actor named John Randolph who won a Tony for the show, became the toast of Broadway. He was in his early 70s. And I became aware quickly that John was never going to master his lines. He was going to be close. And on any given night, he'd be letter perfect. But there would be a good percentage of the time where we would get a variation on a theme. And they were always unbelievably funny. So I started taking notes. And every cast member eventually blows a line here and there. And I had this chronicle. So every 3 weeks during the run of that show, I published a newsletter called Broadway Blown. And it would be the actual line, the line as it came out in that performance, and then some sort of editorial comment. And it was a real underground thing. We didn't want anybody to find out we were doing this, but they did. Manny Eisenberg found out, and he loved it. And he actually shared it with Neil Simon, who I thought would be furious. Neil loved it. And they asked me to write a faux award show so that everybody connected with the production could go to a big party and win an award. So I wrote a faux Tony Awards show. And they loved that. Okay. Cut to 2 years later. Jerome Robbins he's going to return to Broadway in a spectacular remounting of the biggest numbers he ever had in his Broadway stage choreography career. Terrific. No need to call Jason Alexander, because I dance, but I ain't that kind of a dancer. I can't dance West Side Story. Now I get a call from Manny Eisenberg. Why don't you come down and audition for Jerry Robbins? I said, as what? He said, the glue. You're going to be the glue of the show, the host, the MC. I went, no. I have no interest in standing on a Broadway stage 8 times a week for a year going, in 1984, Jerry Robbins, I said, get a moderator, get a historian, I want to be an actor, I don't want to be a narrator. Okay, no audition. A month later, he calls back. I really want you to come down. You'll write it yourself. He doesn't know what he wants. You'll write it. No, no. It's a dance show. I'm not going to write a dance show. There's no writing. Okay. Third time he calls, he goes, I let you out of your contract early to do the pilot for ER. He had. He said, you owe me a favor. I said, you can't make me do a Broadway show for a year as a favor. He said, nope. I want you to come down, audition, and talk to the man. Once you've done that, we're square. Okay. What's the audition? He said, learn a couple songs from Fiddler, a couple songs from Forum, bring him in, he'll have you do some stuff. Okay. I go down to the Michael Bennett Studios at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, lovely casting director says, "Mr. Robbins, this is Jason Alexander." I don't get hello out of my mouth. And Jerry Robbins goes, "Why the fuck am I having so much trouble getting you to audition for this show?" And I said, "Well, with all due respect, Mr. Robbins, I don't want to be in your show." I said, "Please don't misunderstand. I'll be the first person online to buy a ticket. I can't wait to see it, but I can't do what you do. I'm not a dancer." And what Manny has described to me is a job for a non-actor. And I only want to be an actor. I don't want to be a narrator. He goes, "What, did you know the fiddler material?" I said, "Yeah, because my mother's wanted me to play Tevye since I was 5. Yes, I know the fiddler material." So he goes, "Go over there and sing Sunrise Sunset." So I sing Sunrise Sunset, and I don't realize that I'm in front of 9 gigantic bay windows looking out to the south of New York, and the sun is setting. And when I tell you, I'm 29 when I do this audition, I've known the fiddler score since I'm 5 years old. I know how to sing this. And I finished singing it, and I look back at Robbins, and he's got tears in his eyes, and I went, "Oh, this is not going to be a good conversation." And we had a really interesting conversation. He said, "Look, the truth is, I know what I want to do in the show. I don't know how it's a show. I don't know what links it. I don't know what the connective tissue is." And Manny had said to him, "Jason's creative, Jason writes, Jason's a chameleon. He'll work with you, you'll figure it out, he'll write it for you, and he'll play whatever it is that's the result." He said, "I have faith that you can actually do that. So I don't care if you take the show, I don't care what your contract says. I am telling you, if you're not happy as an actor on opening night, you can leave the next day. Just get me to opening night." And I said, "Okay, it's not going to do a thing for me as an actor. There's no acting role here. But I know I want to direct. It's one of the greatest stage musical directors of the 20th century. I'll apprentice. I'll sit at his heels and I'll watch what he does." And with that as the goal, I took the gig. And we rehearsed for an unprecedented 6.5 months and opened the show. And I was happy enough with what I did. It wasn't everything that I would have wanted him. I must have rewritten the show for him 6 times because his ego was strange. And every time I said, he said, "I don't want the show to be about me." I said, "It's called Jerome Robbins Broadway. You're the only thing that links this material together. It has to be about you." I said, "What if I play you and we somehow dramatize the moment of inspiration for any one of these numbers? And then it all comes out of your imagination and we do the number." "Yes, yes, great." So I spend 2-3 weeks writing that and showing him pieces and doing it, rehearsing it. And 3 weeks later he'd go, "It's too much about me. I don't want to see me on the stage." And we'd throw that away and we'd do another approach and another approach. And eventually it just became, I would play some character from each of the shows, and as quickly and succinctly as I could, I would explain to the audience in that character whatever they needed to know to appreciate the number on its own, which is fine. So what it became is a magic trick of me playing, I think, 14 different people in the course of the evening. And for me, that is not a big deal. I like doing that. I like changing my skin. For other people, they look at it and they go, "Ooh, that's really amazing," So they gave me a Tony Award. That's about how much I know about how to steer my own career. I was going to turn this thing down, and it gets me the Tony Award, which was the only thing I ever wanted when I stood in my living room at age 7 going, "I want to thank the Academy," thinking there was an Academy for Broadway shows. And that is what Jerome was all about.
How did it feel to win that Tony?
Numb. I was numb. It was actually, again, an amazing learning experience because I had fantasized about it for a long time. I did not fantasize it happening at age 29. And one of the most pivotal shows for me is Pippin. Pippin is the show that made me want to be an actor. I thought my attraction to Pippin was Ben Vereen, because he's the magician on the stage. As an adult, I've come to realize that it is much of what Pippin goes through that keeps me coming back to that show. So Pippin has a line after he goes to war, thinking war is going to be glorious and fulfilling in his destiny as a soldier. And he looks at the carnage around him and he turns to the audience and says, "I thought there'd be more plumes." And that's what I felt when I got home on Tony night. It was great, but I was still the same guy I was when I had gone to this show. So I said, I remember turning to my wife and saying, "I thought there'd be more plumes."
A great story about Jerome Robbins. And this is Jason Alexander and Jerome Robbins Broadway.
Tonight's third-nominated musical began as a memory. A look back at some of the theater's most treasured
Actually, I showed
moments.
you this when we started, so I'm going to move on to this. Jason Alexander in Comedy Tonight.
Playgoers, I bid you welcome. The theater is a temple, and we are here to worship the gods of comedy and tragedy. Tonight, I am pleased to announce a comedy. We shall employ every device we know in our desire to divert you. Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Nothing with kings, nothing with crowns. Bring on the lovers, liars, and clowns. Old situations, new complications. Nothing portentous or polite. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight. Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone. Something convulsive, something repulsive, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something aesthetic, something fanatic, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Nothing with God, nothing with faith. Weighty affairs will just have to wait. Nothing that's formal, nothing that's normal. No recitations to recite. Open up the curtain. Comedy tonight. It all takes place on a street in Rome, around and about these three houses. First, the house of Erroneous, a befuddled old man, abroad now, in search of his children, stolen in infancy by pirates. Arg, there's something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something erratic, something dramatic, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Frenzy and frolic, strictly symbolic. Something for everyone, a comedy tonight. flesh of beautiful women. This is for those of you who have absolutely no interest in violence. Raise the curtain. Finally, the House of Senex, who lives here with his wife and son. Also in the house lives Pseudolus, slave to the sun. Pseudolus is perhaps my favorite character in the piece, a role of tremendous nuance and variety, and played by an actor of such... Let me put it to you this way. I play the part. And these are the Proteans. Only 3, but they perform the work of 30. They are very difficult to recognize in the many parts they play. Watch them carefully. A proud Roman. A patrician Roman. A pretty Roman. A Roman slave. A Roman soldier. A Roman ladder. Incredible versatility. Incredible skill. And above all, dignity. And now, the entire company.
Something for everybody coming tonight. Something that's naughty, something that's naughty.
Something for everybody.
Coming tonight. Nothing that's grim. Nothing that's green.
She plays Medea later this week.
Selling surprises, having disguises. Hundreds of actors out of sight. Pantaloons and tunics, corsets and eunuchs. Noodles and cheeses. Turtles and vases. Tankers, philanderers, cupidity, timidity. Mistakes, space. Blind and
Fumblers, grumblers, fumblers, bumblers.
no loyal curse. No Trojan horse. And a happy ending, of course. This and madness, and in its madness, this time it all turns out alright. Tragedy tomorrow. Coming tonight.
And of course, if it weren't for Jerome Robbins yelling at Stephen Sondheim that the opening to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum wasn't funny, we never would have gotten that masterpiece of a number. Well, now let's move on to Ona White. Ona White was a Broadway dancer. She's not, she's not top tier like some of the others. And if you look at the list of the musicals she was contracted to choreograph, most of them were not major successes other than The Music Man and Mame. Half a Sixpence also. Most of her work was on musicals that just never really did well, although it doesn't mean she was not an outstanding choreographer. Her choreography for The Music Man, they allowed her to do the movie, which is oftentimes unheard of, and same with her choreography for Mame. This is Marion the Librarian, reproduced for the movie by Ona White.
No, it's all right. I know everything and it doesn't make any difference.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mr. Madison, you were probably very young. Anyone can make a mistake.
What?
No apologies, no explanations. You see, I'll only be in town a short while, and a sadder but wiser girl for me.
Would you please make your selection and leave?
I have.
What do you want to take out?
The librarian.
Quiet, please.
The librarian. You're not listening, Marion. Look.
Marion.
Marbles. 6 Steelies, 8 Aggies, a dozen Pee-wees, and one great big glassing with an American flag in the middle. I think I'll drop it.
No!
Shh. Madam Librarian. Oh, what can I do, my dear, to catch your ear? I love you madly, madly, Madam Librarian. Marion, heaven help us if the library caught on fire and the volunteer hose brigade men had to whisper the news to Marion. Madam Librarian. Oh, what can I say, my dear, to make it clear? I need you badly, badly, Madam Librarian. Marion, if I stumbled and I busted my whatchamacallit, I could lie on your floor unnoticed till my body had turned to carrion. Madam Librarian. Now in the moonlight, a man could sing it. In the moonlight, and a fellow would know that his darling had heard every word of his song with the moonlight helping along. But when I try in here to tell you, dear, I love you madly, madly, Madam Librarian. Marion, it's a long-lost cause I can never win, for the civilized world accepts as unforgivable sin any talking out loud with any librarian, such as Marion. Madam Librarian.
Brilliant choreography that Ona White created. Now, again, Ona White may not be the most famous name. She, had a really kind of a simple life. She was a Broadway dancer. Then Carmen Jones, a restaging in 1955 was her first big break. She was an assistant to Michael Kidd.
Now, a woman who
Guys and
kissed on the
Dolls.
very first date is usually a hussy. And a woman who kissed on the second time out is anything but fussy. But a woman who waits till the third time around, head in the clouds, feet on the ground, she's the girl he's glad he's found. She's his shapoopy, 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 shapoopy. The girl who's hard to get. Shapoopy, shapoopy, shapoopy.
But you can't break her yet.
Walk her once just to raise the curtain. Walk around twice and you make for certain. Once more in a flower garden, she will never get soft, you beg her pardon.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, do, sol, fa, mi, re, do.
Squeeze her once when she isn't looking. You get a squeeze back, that's fancy cooking. Once more for a pepper upper, she will never get sore in a way to stop her.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, do.
Now, little old Sal's no gal as anyone could see. Look at her now, she's a go gal who only goes for for me, squeeze her once when she isn't looking. Get a squeeze back, that's fancy cooking. Once more for a pepper upper, she'll never get sore on the way to supper. Shaboopy, shaboopy, shaboopy. Shaboopy, shaboopy, shaboopy.
Hey, Professor, show us some new steps.
The great choreography that she created for the stage was reproduced in the movie, and it truly is exceptional choreography. But this, again, is her Tony Award-winning choreography for Mame, as done by Ginger Rogers in the London production.
Mame, honey, you've done more for the South than anyone since Robert E. Lee.
You coax the blues right out of the horn, Mame. You charm the husk right off of the corn, Mame. You've got the banjo humbly and politely are attuned to beat the band. Though hope plantations farm and since you brought Dixie back to Dixieland. You make the cotton music so big, Maine. You give my only julep a kick, Maine. Whoever thought a Yankee would put our little Dixie bells to shame? You made us feel alive again. You've given us the drive again to make the South revive again, Maine.
You brought the cakewalk back into style, Maine. You make the weeping willow tree smile, Maine. Your skin is Dixie satin, there's rebel in your manner and your speech. You may be from Manhattan, but Georgia never had a sweeter peach.
You make the old magnolia tree bud, Maine. You make camellias bloom in the mud, Maine. You make the bougainvilleas turn purple at the mention of your name.
This time the South will rise again.
You make our black-eyed peas and our grapes, Maine. Seem like the bill of fare and the ribs, Maine. You make, you saw, you confident, absolutely nothing is the same. Your special fascinational,
Now, interesting, that choreography was originally created for Angela Lansbury, who is not particularly a dancer. And of course, when Ginger Rogers took over the role, there was dancing to do, but Ginger Rogers was a far more qualified dancer than Angela Lansbury. But the choreography was in place, and it wasn't overly modified from what Ona White had originally done. She also staged 1776.
I have come to the conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress. And by God, I have had this Congress. For 10 years, King George and his parliament have gold-cullied and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes. And still, this Congress won't grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God! What in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John, sit down, John. I gotta sing, John, sit down, John, sit down, John. I gotta sing, John, sit down.
Someone ought to open up a window.
It's 90 degrees, have mercy, John, please. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia.
Someone ought to open up a window. I say vote yes, vote yes, vote for independence.
Someone ought to open up a window.
I say vote yes.
Sit down, John.
Vote for independence.
Someone ought to open up a window. No, too many flies. Yes, too many flies. But it's hot as hell in Philadelphia. Open up a window and we compromise here.
Vote yes.
No, too many flies here.
Vote yes.
Oh, for God's sake, John, sit down.
Good God! Consider yourselves fortunate that you have John Adams to abuse. For no sane man would tolerate it.
We heard this before. Now for God's sake, John, sit down.
I say vote yes.
No.
Vote yes.
No.
Vote for independence.
Someone ought to open a window.
I say vote yes.
Sit down, John.
Vote for independence. I say vote yes. Vote yes.
Oh, for God's sake, John, sit down.
You know, 1776 is going to be revived next year by Roundabout Theater, and I'm sure I'm going to get a group to go. And it's going to be an all-female cast portraying our founding fathers. If Hamilton can do what they did, I guess 1776 can do what it's going to do. I'm not sure. I'm just looking to see if anybody wants to ask anything. Let's see. Somebody played Fruma Sarah there. Oh, Susan, perched on somebody's shoulders. Actually, that one was on a rolling ladder with somebody behind the costume to roll her in and out. It was much taller than being on someone's shoulders. That version of Fiddler that we saw was the Danny Burston revival from about 5 years ago. So it was very critically acclaimed. And a lot of you who may have gone to London with me, we saw the immersive Fiddler on the Roof, where we actually sat as if we were in Anna Tefka. It was very, very unusual and different. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but I'll be very happy to, make it so you all can ask questions in chat. If somebody wants to unmute or whatever. Trying to figure out how to unmute everybody this morning. All of a sudden, it seems a little different. But anybody want to ask anything? Nobody's asking. Oh my gosh, it's quiet this morning. Anyway, some more interesting news. If you were used to seeing me in Howard County, I'll be back there lecturing live. A lot of the places that I had been lecturing live, like Fox Hill and Classic Residence, I'm actually back in front of people. So that's really kind of wonderful. Most of the larger places like Osher and Oasis and Beth Ami are going to keep me on Zoom for quite some time. But as the some of the places open, I'll keep you all posted and let you all know. And our Friday mornings are going to continue as long as you all want to have them. So that's not going to be a problem. Again, I'll be sending out the link a little on. I have it filmed. So if you were a little late coming in this morning, you'll have it. Next week, we're going to talk about Gower Champion. And Gower and Marge are unbelievable. And he also is one of the major choreographers that reinvented the way musicals were staged. Interestingly enough, if you look at since the year 2005 forward, there's not a choreographer like the ones that we're talking about. There's nobody that just stands out as being a creative force. So what we're talking about is truly an interesting dynamic of Broadway musical history. Okay, everybody, take care. I'll see you all next Friday, and I'll send this out soon. Glad y'all enjoyed.